Okay, this lesson is more of an advanced lesson on how to tell a story, and it's going through a story framework that I use to help me organize my ideas and organize my story. So, the story framework goes like this. Number one, you want to establish the character. Number two, you want to hook the audience, and hooking the audience just means grabbing their attention. It's a page turn, it's something that makes someone say, I want to know what happens next. So, there are lots of different kinds of examples, but it can be as simple as a character, a problem that's happening. It can be something that just grabs your attention that you're like, what is going to happen next? Okay, next, you want to define the problem. Without a problem in the story, you don't really have a story. Most stories have problems. And you can kick off that problem with what we call it is an inciting incident. An inciting incident is something that happens in the story that starts the story. So usually this is an action, and I'm going to show you what that is in Mix. And next, you want to escalate the problem. So defining the problem and kicking it off with inciting incidents is the start of your story. Escalating the problem, now there's a lot more that goes into this idea, but escalating your problem is basically thinking about what is the theme in your story, what is the plot in your story, and what are the emotions in your story. And then you can figure out from there how you're going to build the plot. Okay, from there, we're going to resolve the story, and that usually comes to an emotional peak. And then we're going to finish the story with a satisfying ending. So the first 4 steps is really the beginning of your story, and starting your story really well sets up your story for everything else. The middle of your story is based on the main problem in your story and making that worse. Your character does go through some choices, and then there's a peak of your story where you then finish your story and you resolve what that story problem was going through. So let's look at Mix as a detailed example. So in the beginning, I established the characters, right? I have reds, yellows, and blues are right on the end pages. And then next, I have Mix, a colorful story. You see again, red, yellows, and blues. So we're establishing the characters again. We're establishing the world. In the beginning, there were 3 colors. In the beginning, we're establishing the characters, establishing the characters, establishing the characters. And here's our hook, right? Everyone lived in color harmony until ... And we see this little red guy, and he's frowning. He's the only one that's frowning, right? So it makes you wonder, oh, what's going to happen next? And now we have this big page turn where we say, reds are the best. This is the problem and the inciting incident. This is what kicks off the story. When he says reds are the best, everyone else then disagrees, right? So this is the beginning of our story. I've color-coded this to just make it simple and easy for you to see. And now we have the main problem. Now we're going to escalate on the problem. So the yellows disagree. They say, no, we're the best because we're the brightest. And the blues say, you know what? This is not even worth talking about. We're just going to leave. The blues were too cool to respond. So the colors decide to live in separate parts of the city. This is the result of that problem, that now the world is separated, everyone's sad. But then one day, a yellow noticed blue and something happened. So this is a transition, and the world is starting to change because yellow and blue became inseparable. But again, not everyone accepts them. So we're escalating the problem again, right? We're making this problem worse. But not all the colors are happy about it. Colors shouldn't mix. I don't like that yellow's effect on blue. That blue isn't bright enough for yellow. And then we have the peak and the resolution. But yellow and blue love each other so much they decide to mix. So this is the peak of the story. And here's the resolution, which is they create a new color, green. And green was bright like yellow and calm like blue, but really she was a color all of her own. And then everyone else then saw that there are new possibilities. And so now we're resolving the problem and we're closing the story. And so everyone mixes and mixes and mixes. And there were so many new colors and a lot of new names. So this is really fun because we have now solved the problem and we're going to end the story in a very satisfying way. And how do we do that? Well, basically, in a nutshell, we wrap up all the storylines that we built out in the beginning. So in the beginning, we had the colors separating in different parts of the city. Now they're taking apart the city and rebuilding it. And then we see this final spread where the new city was full of color. It wasn't perfect, but it was home. I always had a vision for this story that in the beginning we would start with 3 colors, and at the end we would end with a ton of different colorful scenes. And the best tip I can give you about the end is you really want to solve the end problem, but you want to have an emotional ending where people just read it and they are happy when they see it, and it just ends your book. So your exercise now is to take your favorite book and go through the beginning, middle, and end in establishing your character, hook the audience, define the problem, look at where the inciting incident is, escalate the problem, peak and resolution, and satisfying ending. Doing this exercise of putting a post-it on your favorite book will really help you see how that story is structured and how you can structure your own stories. All right, guys, have fun with this example. And in the next video, I'm going to have an example of Dogman, which I know is a lot of your favorite stories. Okay, we'll see you there.